Describe what kind of leader you are.
I believe I'm a servant leader, which means that I take into account my members and like CAB members, Gen members more than myself. So I worry about their well-being and what they want over what I see the club being.
How would you change the intern program, and why is it important for IVP to be in charge of the intern program?
So how I would change the intern program is that sometimes we just don't have a meeting at all. And what I would do is like create an assignment or like an action item that they would learn that week and post it on like our Facebook so that they can do that instead of just not doing anything or learning anything that week. And I think another thing would be because what the intern program mainly is like to make them into leaders, but I also want to make them into professionals because we're all here to like get ready for the real world. So I think the intern program is one way to prepare them for that. And I think it's important for internal VP to be in charge of the interns because internal VP is in charge of like the well-being of the club, and in the club are members, and part of the members are the interns, and part of the interns are the future leaders of VSA.
What can you do to strengthen the relationship within internal organizations?
Within internal? So like other API or other...
Yeah.
So one of the first things I think I would do is probably contact the other internal vice presidents and make sure to keep in contact with them throughout the year because if I'm not able to go to like Student Diversity Commission meeting or Asian American Pacific Islander Coalition meetings, then I would ask them for information. Or if I needed advice with something or didn't know how a process with AS or application with them, I could ask them. So I think one way is to establish that like partnership from the get-go and continue to build it so that we always have that.
Yeah. How well are you at managing your time? Because technically you're in 5 meetings every week, CAB meetings, SDC, GBM, intern meetings, and APIC.
So how
well are you at managing your time?
So I think I'm better this school year at managing time because I still go to APSA meetings, VSA meetings, intern meetings while balancing school. So I think I'm okay at time management, but also another way like I would help with that next year is to contact the IVPs if I'm unable to go to the 2 SDC and APIC meetings, and then for the intern meetings I would implement the like online assignment or like action item learning type of thing, so that would eliminate 3 meetings that if I weren't able to go.
How do you feel SEC, AS at large, and APIC tie into VSA and work together to achieve goals?
Can you repeat that question?
How do you feel SEC, AS at large, and APIC tie into VSA and work together to achieve goals?
So I think, one thing that SDSU is like, they stand for is diversity, because San Diego's pretty diverse, and I think VSA is a part of that, because like being a part of SDC and APIC helps us to get more well known and for us to put the Vietnamese culture into state.
How do you plan on improving the IVP position outside of the intern program?
How do I plan? Can you repeat that?
How do you plan on improving the IVP position outside of the intern program?
One thing that I noticed this year was that the internal events, like say AS hosts, they're not explained that well. So I think one thing that I would do is like make sure that I know all the information and then relay it back in a way that would seem interesting to members so that they would want to go, or like it would pique their interest. And another thing is that after the presentation of the internal events are done, they're not posted on Facebook like for repetition. Like you go to a meeting and you hear about this information, but you're not gonna, like it's not gonna stick unless you reinforce that. So I would probably post, or the thing I would change is like posting it on Facebook and then maybe working with the webmaster to create like a, not a menu, but like a category on the menu on the website for internal affairs, and then putting all the information there and then having that constantly updated as the school year goes on. So that would be one thing I would change.
As IVP, you're also the mediator between all of CAB and between cabinet and GB members. If there's an argument between cabinet members, how would you deal with it?
Between cabinet members?
Mm-hmm.
Like one-on-one or just like one-on-one?
One-on-one.
So I think what's important about being a mediator is that you understand both sides and that you're like an active listener to what they're both trying to get at. And then I would have both sides explain how they feel or saw the situation or problem, and then say like, oh, this is what I'm getting from what you're saying, and then have them both listen, be active listeners instead of active responders, because without the mediator, two people in a conflict would just yell at each other, in my opinion. So the mediator is there to keep everyone like level-headed. So that's what I would do.
And then if it's between a group of CAB members and another group of CAB members, how would you deal with that also?
Okay. I think I would maybe hear them separately first. So if it were this group of CAB members versus this group of CAB members, I would want to hear each individual before having them meet and explain what they're feeling or what they see the conflict as. So I think having a full understanding of the problem is like key to solving the issue.
Being IVP, you are the right-hand man or woman. If you see the president slacking and other members notice and inform you, how would you go about dealing with this?
So one thing that I wanted to establish from the get-go, if I were to be elected, is to create either an informal or formal contract with the president that if either one of us slacks off, that will call the other person out and like keep them in check without having any hard feelings, because we're both here to do our job for the betterment of VSA and the members, not for our own agenda. So I think I would hold them to that contract.
Involvement in Greenfest and Homecoming has been lacking in the past 2 years. If we planned on being involved, but VSA events are preventing this, how would you balance school-wide involvement in VSA?
So one thing that attracted me to student orgs like VSA was that I saw before that we were in Greenfest and we won, and that was really exciting to me because I really like Greenfest and what it's all about. So to be involved in both is in the bylaws, I think, but if there were no time, I would try to do at least one of them. And if we were not able to do any, I would still present about what events were going on for Homecoming and Greenfest to the members, so that if, like, say, one aspect of Greenfest was like pivotal to the team competition, but we weren't able to do that, but members are still able to go, like, be spectators. So and then like Greenfest specifically, they have like other events like the business fair and like lunch bag. I forgot what it's called. Lunch bag socials or sessions. So even if we weren't able to do the competition, I would still like talk about like the homecoming game or the homecoming this or Greenfest this.
Sorry. As you are currently an intern, you are going for a top position. What experiences from your internship can you take from that will make that you feel will make you a capable leader?
So one thing that Ernest really like pushed for in the beginning was that we bonded together, and I think that helped in our communication because instead of waiting for one person to take the responsibility and say something in like our messages, like if we see something or we like think of something, we'll just message the group instead of waiting for someone to act. And that's something that Ernest said he liked about our group of interns because that's what they lacked last year. And so with communication, I think that would be one thing I would take away from this year and improve on for next year, because we mainly communicate through iMessage, but I think that we could teach how to professionally communicate, so through email etiquette or something like that, because that goes back to my thing of developing leaders and professionals.
And then last question, what kind of relationship would you have with the president as the right-hand man? And in worst case scenario, the president resigns, what would your vision be for BSA? And how prepared do you feel to be in charge of CAT?
So the first part was what relationship I would have with the president. So one thing you learn in business is that you always want to go into a project with a theory why mindset, and what that means is that you fully trust them and believe they're competent and will do their work, and that will lead to a successful project or a term in this case. And so I would really want to trust them to do their job because that's what they ran for and that's what they like want to do, and I would hold them accountable with that contract and like always call them out. And then the second part was
in worst case scenario, the president resigns, what would be your vision for BSA and how prepared do you feel?
So obviously president wasn't the position that I ran for and wasn't like the ideal position that I wanted, but I think their vision is still important even though they resigned, so maybe I would ask them like where they saw VSA going and then fill in where they lacked because they resigned for a reason. And then how I would deal with them leaving is like president leaving is like a big deal, so I would have to deal with the aftermath before thinking about how I would see the club. But obviously I would implement what I wanted to do as IVP into my presidency as well. Thank you.